Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all safe and healthy. So today I'm here at the Luxury Drive showroom to take a look at the 2023 model of the Range Rover Sport. And in this video we'll answer the question that whether the new Range Rover Sport is the best mid-size luxury SUV among its competitors, and it does have a pretty strong competition. So we'll answer that question at the end. And before we go ahead and talk about the SUV itself, I just wanted to give a big thanks to Luxury Drive for allowing me to come here and make the video with the Range Rover Sport. So to show my appreciation, I want you guys to go ahead and follow them on their Instagram page. The link will be in the description below. And for those of you who are watching this video in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, I'll be leaving the location link down in the description as well. So if you're looking to buy a new Range Rover Sport or any new luxury vehicle, you can come here to the showroom and take a look at their amazing collection. So there might be something that catches your eye. And if you're new to the channel, guys, do leave a like and do subscribe to the channel as well, and do turn on your bell notifications so that you'll be the first ones to know when I upload new videos. And a bit sorry for my voice, it sounds a bit different. It's just that I have a bit of a sore throat, so that's why my voice is a bit different. But without further ado, let's take a look at the Range Rover Sport. Alright guys, so here is the new Range Rover Sport. A Luxury Drive currently have two of them. One is in this Giola green and the other is in this metallic black. And obviously, being Range Rovers, you do have a lot of paint options, so you can choose whatever you want. But for this video, we'll be focusing on the metallic black one. And let's talk a bit about the Range Rover Sport itself. So everybody knows the Range Rover Sport is the mid-size SUV of the Range Rover lineup. It competes with the BMW X5, Mercedes GLE, and those kind of SUVs. And so it has a pretty tough competition. And for the 23 model year, Range Rover have completely redesigned it. So it looks a lot sportier. It is longer, wider, and taller than the previous model. And overall, there are a lot of significant changes in the engines and the electronics. So overall, it's a completely new model. Let's talk about the Range Rover Sport lineup itself. You have a lot of trim options for the Range Rover Sport. So you have the Range Rover Sport, and in that base lineup, you have the Range Rover Sport S and the Sport SE. Then you have the Range Rover Sport Dynamic, which is a completely different trim. Then in that dynamic trim, you have the Dynamic S, the Dynamic SE, and the Dynamic HSE. Then comes the Range Rover Sport Autobiography, and then after the Autobiography, we have the top of the line first edition. So the ones that you see in the video, both the green and this black one, both of them are first edition models. So they are the top of the line trim for the Range Rover Sport. And I think the first edition is only for the 23 model year. From the 24 model year, the Autobiography will be the top trim for the Range Rover Sport. So since we're talking about the top of the line trim of the Range Rover Sport, let's talk about the price as well. So here in Luxury Drive, both of these vehicles are 1.15 million riyals. I'll convert it into dollars for you guys. You might see a bit of a difference in the prices when you compare it with the US and European markets. That's because the cars in Saudi Arabia are imported, so you have import tax on them, and plus you have the increased VAT. So because of that, the prices are significantly higher than the US and European markets. And now that the price is out of the way, let's talk about the design. So the Range Rover Sport follows the same design philosophy that Range Rover themselves put into the flagship Range Rover when they updated it for the 22 model year. And that was like a minimalist approach, like a reduction design. So all like unnecessary vents and all that stuff they didn't put on their vehicles. They tried to clean up their design as much as they could, and they try to keep it pretty minimal, which I think is quite nice. And let's talk about the design with the green one here for the front, just so that you can see the differences much more easily because of the black grille and all that stuff. So at the front, you can see we have Range Rover written proudly on the front, and below that we have a pretty narrow grille with the Land Rover badge. Usually nowadays the trend is to increase the grille size as much as they can. But Range Rover went the opposite direction and they reduced the size of the grille, which I think is quite nice and it looks pretty good. Then we have the headlights. So let me just turn them on for you. So here are the headlights turned on, and you can see these are the LED matrix headlights. So you have individual LED lamps inside along with the LED DRL. And when you turn on the indicator, it takes up the top spot of the headlight, and overall it looks really nice and sharp. Then over here you can see we have the headlight washers, and down below we have some air vents along with some bronze accents that you get on the first edition model. And all of the air intakes that you see in the front are real, so no fake vents over here. Then down below we have the fog lamps, as you can see, which look quite good, and it's just a small LED strip. Then in the middle you have your radar sensors along with your front camera, and down below you have a nice bronze strip again for your front splitter, and overall the design looks quite good. Then to talk about the side profile, we move towards the black Range Rover Sport. Is just because I don't have a lot of space for the green one on the other side, so we'll take a look at the side profile for the black one over here. And again, you have the very recognizable side silhouette, which is pretty similar to the previous Range Rover Sport. So that shape is pretty iconic now for the Range Rover Sport, and they have integrated it into the new model as well. And when we take a look at some of the elements from the side, you can see we have these plastic covers on the hood along with these bronze accents. By the way, if you don't like these bronze accents, you can black them out with a black package, and all the bronze accents that you will see around the SUV will be blacked out. Then on the fenders you have the same bronze element along with that black plastic. And as we move down, you can take a look at the rims. So these are 23-inch rims. These come as standard on the first edition model. You have quite a few choices for rims, but as standard you get these silver ones. So in terms of size, these rims are sitting on a 285 section tire, and you have a 40 series sidewall, so a pretty chunky tire which is needed. And you can see we have red brake calipers, and the brake discs themselves are pretty huge. By the way, as standard you get black brake calipers, but as an option you can change the color of them to red. And then one thing that Range Rover have done for the design is they have removed the seams that you usually see on other cars near the window line. I'll give you an example over here. So as you can see, this is an old Land Rover Defender. You have these weather seals right near the window. Range Rover have completely removed them from the new design. They have also done this on the new flagship Range Rover as well. So I think this is a pretty clever design, and it looks pretty sleek, and this is something I think many of the manufacturers should start doing. Then we have the side mirrors, which are pretty chunky. You have your LED indicator along with your blind spot camera. Then you have the retractable door handles, and as we move along the side, you can see we have a blacked out roof. And then we come to the rear tire. So the rear tire is also the same size as the front, a 285 section tire with a 40 series sidewall, the 23-inch rim. You have your red brake calipers, and the rear disc brakes are huge as well. Then let's move towards the back. Sorry, I don't have a lot of space at the back, so I can't show it to you clearly. I'll just show you a picture of how it actually looks from the back, and then I'll explain some of the details. So here's the photo, and now let's take a look at the design. So at the back, Range Rover have again kept it pretty minimalistic. You can see the tail lights look pretty small. I do like the tail lights on the flagship Range Rover. It's pretty well hidden. I wish they could have done that with the Range Rover Sport as well, but the tail lights still look quite good. You have your Range Rover logo right in the middle, and you have a Land Rover badge here. And also, since this is the V8 model, you get quad tailpipes. You can see two here and two on the other side, and you do have a sort of diffuser design as well. You also have your rear camera right over here. Up top, you can see we have two shark fin antennas along with your camera system, which is integrated into the rear view mirror, which I'll show it to you later on. And let's take a look at the boot space now. So as you can see, here's the boot space, and you do have quite a good amount of space over here. To be exact, you have 647 liters of space right behind the second row of seats, and when you fold down the second row of seats, you have 1500 liters of space, which again is quite impressive. And some of the features that you have at the back are, you have some of these straps, you have these hooks over here to hang your shopping bags, you have a 12-volt socket to attach some electronic like a vacuum to clean up the interior. Then you have some buttons over here to lower the air suspension so that it is easier for you to load in heavier items, and you have your buttons to fold down the rear seats. And the other thing that Range Rover have added is this shelf over here. So this thing kind of separates boot space into two, so you can keep some of the items over there, and some items that might dirty the carpet over there, you can just keep it here because this is a rubberized mat, easier to clean. So for example, you have some dirty boots that are covered with mud, you can keep them here. You can also put in some things in these straps as well. So overall quite good. So let's close this back down. And that's all there is to show in the boot space. Now let's move on to the engine bay. So let's talk about the engines. And you have a lot of engines for the new Range Rover Sport. You have diesel options, petrol options, and plug-in hybrids as well. All the diesels and some of the petrols are mild hybrids. Then you have the full plug-in hybrids as well. But this one that's in front of us is the V8. So it's the P530. It's a 4.4 liter twin turbocharged V8, which I think Range Rover has borrowed from BMW. I'm not sure about this source, but everywhere I've read about this V8, they say that it is borrowed from BMW. So most probably if you are looking for efficiency, you can go for the diesels. If you want to be good to the environment, you have the plug-in hybrids. Or if you want something in the middle of those, like if you don't want a diesel and if you don't want a plug-in hybrid, then you have the mild hybrid petrols as well. Or if you are someone like me who loves a lot of performance, then you have the V8 at the top of the lineup. So let's talk about the specs for this V8. And like I told you, it's a 4.4 liter twin turbo V8. It produces 525 horsepower or 530 PS. The P530 is in PS. And it produces 750 Newton meters of torque, which I'll convert it into pound-feet. I don't remember it at the top of my head. And I believe it is attached to an 8-speed automatic transmission. And obviously, since it's a Range Rover, you have all-wheel drive. So all this package, and considering the V8 is pretty heavy, and you have a pretty huge SUV as well. It weighs 2.5 tons. Which is quite significant, and despite weighing 2.5 tons, the Range Rover Sport can go from 0 to 100 in just 4.5 seconds, which is quite impressive. And you have a limited top speed of 250 kilometers per hour or 155 miles per hour. So that's all about the engines. Now let's move towards the interior. Now I think it's time to go towards the interior, but before that I wanted to show you the fuel economy. And since this is the V8, you can guess it has a very poor fuel economy, just 9.7 kilometer per liter, which as suggested is very poor. So the fuel economy is out of the way. Let's move towards the interior. You have your retractable door handles, and as we pull open the doors, you can see we have a foldable footrest, and that's an optional extra, by the way. You can add it or you can delete it, it's up to you. But let's talk about the interior. And you can see this particular one has the white leather interior, which looks quite good. But it's quite easy to get it dirty as well, so be careful of that. So let's talk about the door trim. The leather on top over here is really nice and soft. Then down below we have some fabric kind of material, which again feels really high quality. Moving down, by the way, we have forged carbon, which looks pretty impressive. If you don't like forged carbon, you can get a wood veneer as well as an optional extra. But I think the forged carbon looks pretty good, and it suits the personality of the Range Rover Sport as well, since it has Sport in its name. Here then we can see we have the seat controls with the memory seating integrated into them, which again shows Range Rover were pretty serious for their minimalist approach. So they tried to declutter as much as they could. You have your window switches, side mirror controls, and you have your grab handle along with your door opening handle as well. You have your central locking, and the leather on the armrest is really nice and soft as well. Down below you have more leather. You have some polished chrome, which is darkened up, and you have a good amount of storage space in the doors. Moving to the side, you can see we have the illuminated first edition sill plates, and these are how the seats look. The seats are really nice and soft. You can see these seats, the headrests are like the ones you get on airplanes. You have a wing design to them so that you can keep your head in place, which is again quite nice attention to detail. But the seats themselves are really nice and soft. They are pretty cushiony as well. And one more thing you can see over here, you have lights integrated into the seat belt buckle or the seat belt holder, which is quite handy if you are looking to find your seat belt in the dark, or alternatively you can just turn on your central lights. Then on this side you have your button to open your trunk, and you have another button to open your hood, and those are your accelerator and brake pedals. And now I think let's take a seat inside and I'll show you around the interior. Alright guys, so I'm in the interior of the new Range Rover Sport, and the first thing that I have to say is that this thing is really comfortable, and these seats especially are so comfy. You just feel like you're sitting on really comfortable lounge chairs. So that's how comfortable these seats are. And let me show you the headroom as well. So headroom is a bit tight. I have the seat set to its lowest driving position, but despite that, and because you have the panoramic sunroof as well, it does eat into the headspace, especially this part over here keeps touching my head. And the cap is a bit high, so that's why it touches the sun blind over here. But after removing the cap as well, I do have issue with this section of the roof. It constantly hits my head. So taller drivers might be a bit challenged in terms of the headroom, so do keep that in mind. And before buying the Range Rover Sport, do take a seat in one and adjust it according to your height and see if you're comfortable or not. Then let's talk about the interior. So the design is pretty much similar to the one you get on the flagship Range Rover. So again, it's pretty minimalist. You have a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. You have, I think, a 15-inch tablet screen in the middle. You have a heads-up display as well. I don't know if it's showing up or not on camera. Somewhat it shows up. Then you can see the air vents. They have integrated them in this space over here, and they look pretty good when they're integrated in that way. They don't stand out and they don't look bad. And the quality of the interior, as expected from Range Rover, is really high. Everything you touch feels really nice. And let's talk about some of the features. So the steering wheel again is pretty similar to the one that you get in the flagship Range Rover. You have this nice 3-spoke design. You have metallic paddle shifters at the back. You have this control over here which you can use to control the digital gauge cluster, and you can customize whatever information you want in the middle. So we can change the display layout to something that we are more familiar with. So we have these dials for your speedometer, tachometer. Then in the middle you can change whatever information you want. So it is pretty customizable. I have covered it in much more detail in my flagship Range Rover video. If you want to watch that, I'll link it right over here. Then behind the steering wheel you have your indicator stalk along with your light controls, and here you have your windshield controls. And obviously the steering wheel itself is electronically operated. And on the right side of the steering wheel you have your cruise control settings. Then we come to the center console, and you can see we have this nice 15-inch touchscreen. It's the PV Pro system that JLR introduced back in 2021. It was a significant upgrade when they introduced it, but it does feel a bit laggy at times. You can see how slow this thing was just to navigate. When I press the button, it is a bit laggy, the touchscreen. The systems in the new BMW, especially the iDrive 8 and the MBUX system, are much more responsive and faster. But I think most of you will just use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, and I think you should be fine. Then coming down below we have some climate controls, and this is what I like again about the new Range Rovers, this climate control system. You have physical dials as well, but they have integrated some of the controls in them. So like at the moment I can control the temperature, but when I pull the dial I can control the fan speed. But if I push the dial, the seat heating should come up, but for some reason it didn't. So I click this button over here, and on the screen you can control your seat heating, seat massage, adjusted, and a lot of other stuff. Then coming down below you have your gear selector for your 8-speed automatic, your start stop button, your volume control, and you have your drivetrain selector. So you can go from grass, gravel, snow. You have comfort, eco, dynamic, which is like a sport mode. And after grass, gravel, you have mud and ruts, you have sand, you have rock crawl, you have a wading mode, and you have a configurable mode as well. So in wading mode you have like almost 900 millimeters of wading depth, which is quite nice. Then you have your hill descent control and your low range mode. Then here you can see we have the forged carbon along with the first edition logo on it, and inside you have your cup holders, and you have some more storage space under them. And you also have a 12-volt socket right over here as well. Then we come to the center armrest, which is nice and soft, and you have a cool storage in the middle, so you can store your drinks and stuff. And you have a grippy pad over here. One more thing I forgot to show you is that you have a wireless charging pad inside right here, right below the screen. Since it's a bit dark on this side, you can't actually see it, but you do have that. Then let's take a look at some of the storage that you get over here. So you press this top arrow, you have a glove box over here, and you have a USB port inside as well. And you press the other down arrow, and the glove box at the bottom opens up. Both of them are lined with felt, so whatever you keep inside won't rattle around. Then here you have your rear view mirror, and I think you have a camera as well. So you can see you have the camera. You can adjust it however you want. You can increase the brightness, you can change the angle of it. So you have a lot of other settings, which is quite nice. And you can switch back to a regular mirror whenever you want. Then up top we have the controls for your sunroof. So let's open up the sunroof, and you can see it's a panoramic sunroof, which brings in a lot of light, which is really needed in the Range Rover Sport, because the roof lining and everything is pretty dark. And by the way, the roof lining is really nice and high quality. It feels really nice to touch. And you have another button right over here, that's to open your sunroof, and you have some LED lights all around. Then here you have your sun visors along with your vanity mirrors with diffused LED lighting, which looks quite good. And by the way, it's a double sun visor, so you can use one to cover the side, while you can use the second one to cover the front at the same time. So again, pretty good. And one thing I like about the new Range Rovers is the grab handle right over here. It feels really high quality and feels really nice to touch as well. So that's the Range Rover Sport from the front seats. Now let's jump in the back seats and take a look at the space over there. Okay, so let's take a look at the rear door trim for the Range Rover Sport. And again, you have similar quality materials in the front. And you can see we have the Meridian 3D surround sound system. So this was, I think so, a speaker grill. I didn't know that. I thought it was some cloth material. So that is a pretty cool thing. And here at the back you can see we have manual sunshades. I would have loved to see electronic sunshades. I think it's an optional extra, but you do have them. Then coming down below, you have the forged carbon, your seat controls, your window control, door handle, locking, and you have the same leather material for your armrest. And you have a good amount of door storage space at the back as well, along with more speaker grills. On the side, you don't have first edition written, but you do have some silver side sills, and these are how the rear seats themselves look. Again, pretty high quality, and they feel really nice and soft. And the rear headrests also have that wing functionality, which again feels really good. So now let's jump inside the back seats and take a look at the space over there. So this is something I wanted to show in the Range Rover Sport. So despite making the new Range Rover Sport longer and wider than before, the space is pretty limited in the back seats, especially for tall passengers like me. I am 6'5" or 195 centimeters. I have the front seat set to my driving position, and I cannot sit directly behind myself. So if someone shorter than you is sitting in the front, only then you could have a good amount of knee room. But other than that, headroom is also pretty limited. As you can see, my head directly touches the sunroof, which is not good. I checked without the cap as well, and after that my head still touches the glass over here, so that is really not comfortable. So if you're on the taller side, I suggest you to sit in the front passenger seats. Keep the rear seats to someone who is shorter than you, because they might be comfortable in the back, but you will definitely not be. So do keep that in mind. Then let's take a look at some of the features around the cabin. So here on the side you have the same high quality grab handles along with some AC vents, and you have a coat hook as well. And you also have reading lights at the back. You have this touch sensitive button over here. Click that and the lights open up and close. Then this particular one has the optional extra of the rear screens, so you can turn them on just by tapping them, and they are exactly a copy of the center screen over there. You do have your HDMI inputs, and you have a power socket at the bottom over there. So in theory you can also bring your video games on the Range Rover Sport and use that as well. So quite nice. One more thing I forgot to show you, you have the classic Range Rover armrests on the side as well. You have your air vents, forged carbon, and in the middle you have an armrest as well. You can use this button to open up that, and you have a good amount of storage space. You have your HDMI ports here along with your USB-C ports, and you have your cup holders right here, again pretty good. And you also have the illuminated seat belt buckles right here as well at the back. And overall I think that's all there is to show in the back seats. So guys, what do I think about the brand new Range Rover Sport? Unfortunately I couldn't get to drive it, obviously because it's a showroom car meant to be given directly to the customer, so no test drives available. But from what I have read about the Range Rover Sport, it is pretty good off-road, it is pretty good on-road as well. In terms of the interior, I still think the Mercedes GLE is much better, like in terms of the space and everything. The infotainment system also, I think the MBUX is much better, but in terms of the interior quality, I think the Range Rover Sport is much better, and obviously the off-road capability for the Range Rover Sport is much better as well. So it all comes down to personal preference. If I were to go ahead and buy something in the mid-size luxury SUV segment, I would go for the GLE or maybe the BMW X5, but maybe you might like going off-road a bit more, so I think the Range Rover Sport will be better for you. But overall, I think the Range Rover Sport is a pretty good SUV, and you should consider buying it. So that's all I had to say. And if you enjoyed the video, guys, do leave a like and do subscribe to the channel as well, and do turn on your bell notification so that you'll be the first ones to know when I upload new videos. And thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and bye bye.